When the sun disappeared, the world belonged to something else. No streetlights, no locked doors, no glowing screens, just darkness. And for ancient humans, darkness wasn't peaceful, it was terrifying. Thousands of years ago, when night fell, predators became active. Wolves howled in the distance, big cats silently moved through the trees, and every strange sound could mean death. So what did humans do? Did they sleep? Did they stay awake? Or did they fear the night just as much as we fear the unknown today? The answer is stranger than most people imagine, because nighttime wasn't simply the end of the day, it was an entirely different world. A world where stories were born, where families gathered around fire, and where humanity first learned to imagine gods, monsters, and the meaning of the stars above. Tonight, we're traveling back tens of thousands of years to discover what ancient humans really did after sunset, and the first thing they did was fight against the darkness itself. The moment night arrived, everything revolved around one thing: fire. Without it, ancient humans were nearly helpless. A burning campfire provided warmth. It cooked food. It kept dangerous animals at a distance. And perhaps most importantly, it gave people light in a world swallowed by darkness. Protecting that fire became a nightly ritual. Someone always gathered extra wood before sunset. Someone always watched the flames, because if the fire died in the middle of the night, relighting it wasn't easy. For some groups, it could take hours. Hours they simply didn't have. So entire communities treated fire almost like a living member of the family. Children learned to respect it. Elders taught how to preserve it. Hunters carried glowing embers during long journeys, so the flame would never truly disappear. And around those flickering lights, something remarkable happened. People began to talk, not about hunting, not about survival, but about stories. Stories of ancestors, stories of spirits, stories that would outlive everyone sitting beside that fire. Because the night didn't just create fear, it created imagination. When the hunting was over, and the fire was burning safely, ancient humans did something extraordinary. They told stories. Long before books existed, long before writing, the night became humanity's first theater. Elders spoke about great hunts. Parents passed down lessons hidden inside legends. Children listened carefully, because a good story wasn't just entertainment, it was survival information. One tale might teach where dangerous animals lived. Another might explain why certain rivers should never be crossed after heavy rain. And some stories were about things nobody could explain: the moon, the stars, the strange lights moving across the sky. Without science, ancient people created meaning through imagination. Thunder became powerful spirits, constellations became heroes, and darkness itself became home to mysterious beings. These nighttime stories connected entire communities. They gave people identity, history, and a sense that they belonged to something greater than themselves. But not everyone around the fire could sleep peacefully, because while stories brought comfort, someone still had to remain awake, watching, listening, protecting everyone else from whatever moved beyond the flames. While most of the tribe slept, a few remained awake. They were the night watchers, the protectors, the people responsible for keeping everyone alive until sunrise. Ancient camps rarely slept all at once. Someone always guarded the fire. Someone always listened for danger, because the night belonged to hunters with sharper eyes and sharper teeth. A distant howl could send fear through the entire camp. The crack of a branch might mean a wandering bear. Even silence itself could feel threatening. So the watchers stayed alert. They added wood to the flames. They checked on sleeping children, and they stared into the darkness longer than anyone else dared. Over time, strange things happened. The human brain began finding patterns in shadows. A moving branch became a spirit, a strange noise became a monster, and flickering fearlight made ordinary rocks look alive. Many researchers believe some of humanity's earliest myths and ghost stories were born during these lonely night shifts. Because when you're alone, surrounded by darkness, imagination becomes incredibly powerful. But the night wasn't only about fear. Sometimes, it was also about wonder, because above every campfire, an endless universe waited to be discovered. When the fire grew quiet, people looked up. Above them stretched a sky unlike anything most of us have ever seen. No city lights, no pollution, just millions of stars. To ancient humans, the night sky wasn't decoration, it was a guide. Hunters noticed that certain stars returned to the same places every year. Some constellations appeared before winter, others signaled warmer seasons. Slowly, the sky became humanity's first calendar. Travelers also learned another secret: if they became lost during long journeys, the stars could help them find their way home. Every clear night became another lesson. Children learned the shapes of constellations long before they learned to hunt. Elders passed this knowledge from one generation to the next, because remembering the sky could save your life. But the stars also raised impossible questions. Who made them? Why did they move? What existed beyond them? For the first time, humans weren't just trying to survive, they were trying to understand. And that curiosity would become one of our species' greatest strengths. But as the night grew colder, reality always returned. The fire was fading, and everyone knew what happened if the flames disappeared before sunrise. The coldest moment of the night wasn't when darkness first arrived, it was just before sunrise. By then, the fire had been burning for hours. The temperature had dropped to its lowest point, and everyone in the camp was exhausted. This was the hour when mistakes became deadly. A fire left unattended could fade into glowing ashes. A hunter standing guard might begin to doze off, and hungry predators often became bolder, sensing weakness. That's why ancient humans developed strict nighttime routines. The fire was checked again. Fresh wood was added. The guards quietly changed shifts. No loud voices, no unnecessary movement, only silent preparation for the final hours before daylight. Then, something incredible happened. As the first light touched the horizon, the sounds of the night slowly disappeared. The wolves grew quiet, the shadows retreated, and the camp came back to life. Children woke first. Parents prepared for another day of gathering and hunting. The fire that had protected them all night now cooked the morning's first meal. For ancient humans, every sunrise wasn't ordinary. It was proof that they had survived another night. As the sun climbed higher, the camp slowly came alive. But before anyone left to hunt, there was work to do. The first task was checking the fire. If it was still burning well, glowing embers were carefully saved. Starting a new fire from scratch could take time and effort, so keeping an existing one alive was incredibly valuable. Next came the tools. Stone spear points were inspected for cracks. Wooden shafts were straightened. Animal hide clothing was tightened against the morning cold. Nothing was left to chance. Hunters knew a broken spear could mean an empty campfire that night. Children weren't idle, either. They collected dry sticks, fetched water from nearby streams, and watched the adults closely, because every morning was another lesson in survival. Knowledge wasn't written down, it was copied, by watching, by helping, by remembering. And before the hunters disappeared into the wilderness, the group gathered for one final moment. No speeches, no celebrations, just silent understanding. Everyone knew the same truth. Not every hunter would return before sunset. As the sun disappeared once again, the cycle began all over. The hunters returned. Some carried fresh food, others returned with nothing but another lesson learned. Children ran to greet their families. The fire was built higher. Dinner was shared. And for a little while, the dangers outside no longer mattered. Night became more than a time to survive. It became the heart of the community. It was where children learned, where elders passed down thousands of years of wisdom, where hunters planned tomorrow's journey, and where every person, young or old, had a place beside the fire. Looking back, ancient humans didn't waste the night. They transformed it. They turned fear into stories, darkness into discovery, silence into knowledge, and simple campfires into the first classrooms in human history. The next time you sit around a fire, or look up at a sky full of stars, remember this: thousands of generations before us did exactly the same thing. Not because it was relaxing, but because their lives depended on it. And perhaps the greatest thing ancient humans ever did at night wasn't hunting, or fighting predators. It was building the traditions, knowledge, and relationships that allowed humanity to survive long enough to create the world we live in today. Because long before cities, long before electricity, and long before history was ever written, humanity's greatest ideas were born around a fire, in the dark. The night wasn't just something ancient humans survived, it was where humanity learned to think, teach, and dream. If you enjoyed this journey into our past, subscribe for more untold stories hidden in human history.